Hello there. So here I am surrounded by plants, lovely orchid over here, and I'm here to talk about toxic shame. And I'm having a really good time. I've been immersed in two books, one about a woman who experiences being an asylum seeker in this country and how she eventually gets deported back to the place where she's likely to be killed. And then the other book is about shaming online, and particularly on Twitter, and it's really set something in motion for me. In this book about online shaming, the writer talks about a psychologist, and he found himself working with people who were incarcerated in maximum security prisons for very violent crimes. And it makes it really clear at the beginning how this is something that he didn't want to go into researching at all. He was very much into doing completely different work, but he found himself in this prison interviewing people who had committed really horrific crimes. And because it was his job, he began to listen. And he discovered that these people all had the same thing in common. When it came right down to it, they explained how, as far as they were concerned, all the things that they did were after they died. And what they mean by this is that they felt dead inside. And of course, in each of the backstories of these people, there are horrific childhoods where a lot of abuse is experienced. And so this links in perfectly to shame, because it's something that people who've been abused experience as a sense of shame. They feel that they must have done something wrong to be treated so badly. And so here we have these people who are having really hard lives, locked away in prison for a very long time and sharing their innermost secrets. Well, it so happens that there's a experiment taking place, and the particular institution changes their policy of the way they treat the inmates, and they've been treated the way is very common, particularly in that country, the USA, which is that they were treated very badly and the guards detested them. In fact, the psychologist who started to work with these people, before he met them, he had a really blanket view. He just judged them all as being utter scum, with no redeeming features and no interest whatsoever. But it's through listening that he realizes how wrong he's been. And so this institution changes its policy from degrading and humiliating the inmates through all sorts of things that the guards were just doing and no one was stopping them, like flooding the cells with water, putting insects in their food, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden that stopped, and the attitude of all the people that were looking after these inmates was now one of giving them respect, actually respecting them, which is something that many of them have never actually experienced in their lives. And he goes on to describe how within a relatively short time the behaviour of these individuals changes completely. And he refers to one particular guy whose story really made his blood run cold when he heard it, but he's listening and observing what happens with the changeover of the policy. And this particular guy, he notices that what he's done, now that he's receiving respect from those in charge of him, he notices that one of the young men in the institution is obviously suffering from severe mental health difficulties. And he realizes that someone needs to look out for this guy. So the next thing he's doing, the psychiatrist is noticing how he's looking after this guy, protecting him from trouble, keeping him out of situations where he'll get bullied, and in fact completely changing his behaviour from what had been for so many years. And so this is the thing about shame. And a person who's been severely shamed in their childhood, this has such an effect of numbing the person that it causes them to do things that no one in their right mind would ever consider doing, because from their point of view they were a completely lost cause, and it's the ultimate judgment you can make against yourself, to become completely dead, which is the single quality that they all described. And so then the book goes on to talk about the way people online have been shamed by the worldwide web community, and how incredibly upsetting and demoralizing and shaming this is as an experience. He talks about one guy who's actually on the stage to apologize for what he did wrong, and right behind him is a huge screen which is the Twitter responses to everything that he's saying, and his apology is not perceived as being genuine by the Twitter community, and so he comes into all sorts of nasty trolling, judging comments, very, very harsh, and how that completely knocks his life to pieces, and he's unable to work, changes his relationship at home. And another example is given of a woman, and she just made a silly flippant remark about AIDS and white people. And then there was a third person, and what she did is she had a photograph taken of her appearing to shout next to a cemetery sign where it said "Silence, respect for the dead." In each case it was an avalanche of hostility which was brought out of people worldwide using social media. And so this gets us to look at something else, which is that if people are carrying shame inside themselves, and then another person is outed through something they say foolishly online, then one of the reasons why people pile in is because if the finger's being pointed at someone else, it's not being pointed at them, so whatever secrets they're carrying are safe, because all the attention is being put onto someone else. And now that people can actually derive pleasure from this shaming of other people, and how it can take such a long time to recover from. And I find it a fascinating subject, and it's been really interesting to research. And I am also, apart from the description where I'll give you the names of the books, I'll also give you a link to a guy who's got some very interesting process to explore in terms of revealing the shame that's hidden within you and the ability to transform it and become free from it. Well, whilst doing all this, I did find myself sitting outside on the balcony, and the next thing I knew, I was working with the guides and helpers, the blue vortex was activated, and I was being cleansed of layers of shame which I had not been aware of until today's exploration. And here we are, still in the back end of December 2019, and it's such an appropriate time to get all the last of the skeletons out of the closet, cats out of the bag, see them for what they are, and work and release. And it's firstly forgiving ourselves what we've done to others, then it's forgiving others for what they've done to us, and then finally it's being able to understand how people can do such things. Which brings me back to the book with the asylum seeker, and she talks about a friend that she's been living with in a flat in Glasgow, and this woman talks about someone that she heard about in her country, and this person, as a young girl, found herself that a bunch of soldiers came into the village, took the father's goat, father protested, father was killed, and they took the girl off and abused her until she died. And when I was reading it, what was going through my mind was, how can people do such things? How can such things occur? And it's like I got the answer from the book about shaming online, because we've all got the capacity in us to become very judgmental and harsh towards other people. And really it's a toxic shame in us that causes us to behave in this way in whatever situation we find ourselves. And so it's such a huge breakthrough to just look back and see events in your life where you've acted in this way. And as I say, first of all, to forgive yourself, for you knew not what you did when you were doing it back then, and now you are awake to the implications of such actions, and to realize it's this deep toxic shame that so many of us carry within ourselves, that when unexpressed just runs amok and is the creator of great cruelties in the world. And this is our human journey, isn't it? That's the way I see it. Our human journey is to awaken to all the things that we did when we were asleep, because to me, anyone that's being very cruel is, from a conscious point of view, they've fallen fast asleep. And that's what the toxic shame does. It makes a person numb. It switches off their emotions. And this is one of the reasons for self-harming. It's a way to actually feel something if you've been so deadened to being in a numb state for a long time. So that's the way that I see it tonight. And if you want to explore it, good luck. Cheers for now.